My fiancé blocked me on our wedding day and ran away with my sister, only for the truth to unravel years later and change everything. My fiancé, Ron, was my first and only relationship. We were high school sweethearts, dating all throughout college, and then getting engaged at 21 and were to be married at 23. Ron has always had a close relationship with my sister, Alina, and I have never had a problem with that. I thought that closeness was normal, expected, and something I should be happy about after reading all the stories about in-laws having an explosive relationship with their daughters' partners that the internet had to offer. So even when some things struck me as odd, like Elena's partners always being overly jealous and protective of her, I always tried to avoid connecting the dots. Even when it all always laid right in front of me, I would label my suspicions as insecurities, when in fact, my intuition was right all along. In the end, I made myself out to be the stupid one by shutting my eyes right when I should have kept them wide open, giving my sister and Ron a way to do all sorts of filthy things behind my back, and that too, so very elaborately, on my wedding day itself. Yes, it all came crashing down for me on the day which people considered to be one of their most special moments in life, and the years, months, weeks, and even moments before this. If anyone would have asked me, I don't think I would have been able to pinpoint that the people who are supposed to respect me, stay loyal to me, would make such an elaborate plan to do me so bad. And that too, in front of hundreds of people. I still remember the moment I realized that Ron wasn't going to be there for the wedding. It was when I found out that he had blocked my number and all my social media. I felt like I was in agony. The tears streamed down my face as I realized that no amount of comfort, empathy, and apologies from anyone would fix me. I just couldn't believe the fact that the two had disappeared into thin air, and no amount of tracing could help me track them down. I left Ron message after message in my foolish, hazy state. I told him everything that Alina's then-boyfriend had told me. Alina was pregnant, and that too with his child, and I was pretty much sure that she had tried to pass it off as Ron's. I knew if Ron didn't read those messages now, he'd be stuck with Alina for a long time, and he really did. The texts never really got to him, and I only assumed that the two stayed together. I was broken for a whole year, until one day I just realized that I had to move on. I enrolled myself in therapy, joined a few clubs around my city, made friends, got myself an apartment, and have been living a pretty decent life. Years passed since everything went down, and currently, everything that happened just feels like a nightmare. In a way, sometimes I also feel glad about everything that happened, because even though I was 26 when we were about to get married, I realized that I truly wasn't ready for it all. But now I know what I want, and found someone who fulfills me in those ways. I started dating Nick, who's honestly way better to me than Ron ever was. Everything with Nick is going smoothly. We're planning to move in together and take our relationship to another stage. My life is as normal as can be, and I realized all of it is because Ron isn't in it to create chaos. But of course, this post wouldn't exist if everything turned out to be okay, and it began when I got a call from none other than Ron. It was from a random number, so obviously, not knowing who it is, I picked it up, and I was shocked to say the least as I heard Ron's voice on the other side of the car. He sounded like he's been crying a lot. His voice sounds strange, and he starts the conversation off by apologizing to me for everything. As awkward as I was, I just replied with a soft, as he began ranting about how he just read my messages that I had sent years ago and how everything makes sense to him now. He told me that he regretted everything and wished that we could meet just once to talk about everything. I declined, telling him that after everything he did, I wasn't sure if I would be able to trust him, and to that, surprisingly, he didn't fight back and simply hung up. I thought that would be it. I honestly just celebrated the fact that I got some sort of closure or even found out that Ron got the karma he very much deserved. But unfortunately, I guess that call was just the beginning of it all, because the very next day after we spoke, my phone started flooding with calls and texts from my parents, my relatives, and none other than Elena. All of them berated me for ruining a happy marriage. According to my mom, it was very bitter of me to tell Ron everything that Alina's then-boyfriend had told me, because they were already on their way to developing a relationship, and apparently, I shouldn't have tried to ruin it. This just gave me the confirmation that Ron probably confronted Elena, and something had gone terribly wrong between them. Honestly, though, I don't feel an inch of sympathy for a home-wrecking woman like Alina. Everything that has happened to her is due to her inability to stay honest and loyal, but I also can't help but have at least an inch of doubt within me. Even though everyone from Ron's side of the family and even Nick is on my side, I truly need some advice here, Tia? I talked to Nick about this fairly because I believe that it was about time that I told him about the entire situation, which he previously only knew a few details about. I told him about my wedding day, Elena's boyfriend, Ron, and everything that has been happening till date. Nick was super understanding and supportive. He understood why I was as heartbroken as I was towards my family's demeanor towards this situation. He suggested that I really should meet Ron and see what he had to say. I was surprised, but I agreed and decided to message Ron on the same number through which he had called me. We talked for a bit and planned to meet a couple of days after, because that's when he'll be flying to my city. I will keep you guys updated. I met Ron today, and everything you guys predicted was right. Alina lied to Ron because, obviously, Ron was richer than her ex-boyfriend, who was still in college when they were dating. Their relationship became extremely toxic right after Ron put a ring on her finger because, of course, Alina got what she wanted, a walking bank account. Alina stopped doing the things that she used to do with him and began simply using him for money. Ron was devastated, to say the least, because they had gotten married, and if he were to divorce her, he'd lose a lot of his assets. Eventually, though, he found a text that I had sent as he was going through his old phone that confirmed his suspicions. He decided to get their son DNA tested just in case, and needless to say, the ex-boyfriend was right. Ron kicked Alina out of his place and is now filed for divorce. This has gotten Alina fuming because she had to move into my parents' house and can no longer afford her lavish lifestyle. Ron told me that he just wanted to meet me to thank me for helping him and tried to talk some more about how he wished we could have worked out. I put it to him straight there and told him that the only reason why we never worked out was because of him and his inability to stay loyal. I guess it's only now that he realizes how badly he has messed up, because he listened to all that I had to say with his head leaned down in embarrassment. I didn't say a lot though, I just eventually got up and left. Currently, what I'm really reconsidering is my relationship with my family. It is heartbreaking how my family sides with Alina when she's clearly in the wrong. It makes me really want to think about our relationship and if it ever was genuine. I mean, my parents have always had a soft corner for Elena as she's the youngest, but to this extent, I'm sort of speechless. I think I'm going to take some time off and really think about what I want. Nick and I planned this very prompt road trip, which lasted for around 3 weeks. Thankfully, because our jobs are very flexible. Well, that trip was truly an eye-opening experience because it really showed me who my parents were as people and how they saw me as a person. I came to the realization that to them, I was always this replacement Alina, and whenever they got her back, they would dump me for her. This time was no different than the others. I just had my eyes open to it this time and could connect the dots. Their favoritism towards her has been so much that I wouldn't be an inch surprised if they all encouraged her to have an affair with Ron. Well, this time was no different as well. Alina returned through a fit, and my parents blew up at me. I guess they also gave her a lot of money, because of course, after all, she's given birth to their first grandchild. Unfortunately, though, Alina ran away again with another rich dude and cut all contact with my parents once again, leaving them behind with my nephew. I didn't find this out through my parents, though. It was their sweetness and talks about wanting to meet me again that alerted me and made me call my cousin, who told me everything that I know of. I immediately knew that they wanted me to be a replacement mom to Alina's son until she returned, and they could simply kick me out of their lives, which is something I'm not going to let happen to me. It was from there onwards everything just clicked, and I knew I had to drop them immediately, and I did by blocking their numbers. I returned back to the city yesterday and also found out that Ron was denied to move back in with his parents after losing so much money on divorce lawyers and alimony. Well, like I had mentioned, he deserves it. I don't feel an inch of empathy for Alina and whatever is about to happen to her, my parents, who are going to take up guardianship for my nephew, and Ron, who got his life crashing down because he couldn't stay loyal. I have Nick, and I think my biggest concern is only our relationship now. Thank you. NTA. Your family life is truly a mess, and the earlier you cut them all out, the happier you'll be. You also need to start to learn to trust your intuition, because you can truly save yourself from going through a lot of trauma with it. NTA. I love how LP ended up cutting out her family at the end. All throughout the post, I could just sense that they too had a huge part to play in this situation. Glad she came to the realization of it and got rid of the problem from the root. I, female 27, live with my husband, male 29. My mom, female 58, has early onset dementia and was diagnosed around a year ago. She's been living with me and my husband as none of my other family members are willing to let her stay with them. There was a certain pressure on me specifically to be the one to look after her because I happen to be a nurse, and I should know about this stuff. But it's a lot different when it's your own mom. I know she's only going to get worse. At the moment, she's still enjoying life and is quite happy to watch her favorite movies and play card games. She can't be left home alone as she's very vulnerable and could accidentally start a house fire. She also frequently forgets where she is. I have one sibling, an older brother, James, male 36. Until recently, James has never helped out with caring for our mom. James lives with his wife, female 35, and they have 2 kids, male 11 and male 8. I've asked James a few times in the past for help, and he frequently uses his kids as an excuse and says he's too busy taking them to and from school or some extracurricular activity. Over the past month, I've been a lot more pushy with James and told him that she's his mom too, and the least he can do is help out 1 day a week. Now, over the past month, every Sunday, James takes our mom out for the day, normally to get coffee and go for a walk in the park. She really enjoys it and looks forward to it. It gives me and my husband a break as well. James's wife has made it very clear that she's upset with me over this. She said I'm stealing James, and that James should be spending time with her and their kids. She accused me of making her life difficult and said that when James comes home from it, he doesn't want to help out with housework or entertain the kids. I told her that's not my fault, and that our mom's care needs aren't negotiable, and it's not fair for me and my husband to do all of it when James is capable of helping. She said we should just put her in a nursing home. I told her that we can't afford a nursing home unless she and James want to go 50-50ths. She said there's better stuff they want to spend their money on. I told her, that's tough titties, and James will have to keep helping out. She said I'm a jerk for forcing James to help out. NTA. She doesn't mean to be, but your mom's care is an enormous burden for you and your husband. Your brother coming once a week for a few hours to help out is really the least he can do. If he's too drained afterwards to help with the kids or around the house, that's really up to him and his wife to figure out. They chose to have kids, so that's on them. That isn't your problem. I'm sure you also have better stuff to spend money on, yet here you are providing what is basically full-time, round-the-clock care, and funding it fully from what it sounds like. Your brother's wife is a major for not even trying to be understanding. NTA, but this is not sustainable, and it is only going to get worse. Do not let yourself get stuck in the position of being your mother's only financial and daily caretaker. You need to find a solution, you and your brother together, obviously. You need to consider your husband, and he needs to consider his wife, but they don't have a seat at the table, so to speak. If sister-in-law doesn't like it, go on vacation and drop mom off at their house as long as it is safe. Let her see what care for a dementia patient entails. My boyfriend male 30 and I female 33 celebrate our 4-year anniversary this month. As the official day falls on a weekday, we decided that we would do something on the weekend, as we both work from home and we don't live together. I wanted to surprise him on the morning of the official date and bring him a little breakfast, a plant, he loves plants, and a box of chocolates. I arrived at his place at around 9, knocked on the door, and he took a little while to open, so I assumed he was still asleep. He opened the door with a frown on his face, so I immediately apologized for waking him up and told him I just brought a few gifts for him for our 4-year anniversary. He just said, okay, visibly upset, and walked away to his bedroom, letting me stand here with my gifts in hand. I was kind of shocked that he reacted this way, so I put the things I bought him on the kitchen table and was about to leave, but then I heard some noise in his bedroom, and he got back with his pants on. I thought he was going to hug me or something, but he proceeded to feed his cat and go to the bathroom while I was waiting by the door. I was sad about his reaction and started to cry because I was only expecting a little joy from him. He exhaled and told me what I responded, that I was sad that he seemed annoyed by my presence, and that I hoped that it would at least make him a little happy that I brought him something for our anniversary. He told me sarcastically that he was sorry that he didn't meet my expectations, and that I can't expect him to be happy to see me because I woke him up and he didn't sleep well. To be honest, I was not expecting a big celebration from him or even a gift on his part. All I wanted was a hug, a kiss, and a thank you, bare minimum, which didn't happen. We didn't even get to have a nice breakfast together because I was in such a bad mood after that, so I left his place. So, Aitia for waking him up to surprise him? Thank you all for your input. It gave a lot to think about. I'll try my best to answer all your questions. 1. His sleep schedule. He wakes up when he wants, as he's a freelancer. He has, in fact, a history of insomnia which he's currently working on. The days prior to my visit, he told me that he had a regular sleep cycle again and would wake up around 8 or 9, which is why I didn't consider 9 to be too early at the time. But I didn't mention that my first intention was to put the presents in his mailbox and text him. I got super excited to see his reaction, given the context and everything, but I admit that I should have thought about that harder. I don't usually show up to his place like that. I guess I thought it would be sweet. 2. Does he usually like surprises? Yes. 3. Keys to his place? I used to have them, but he asked for them back after having his cat that he got after his grandmother went to a retirement home. His mom comes and takes care of the cat when he's not home, so that's why I don't have them anymore. People seem concerned and think it's weird he didn't make another copy, but I don't see it that way. We didn't think about it, and I don't see it as a red flag. 4. He's cheating? Sorry if I gave any hints like that, but the noise was him drinking water, making his bed, and putting his pants on. I trust him. As for the update, we talked about it and both agreed that we were a little bit I apologized for waking him up after a bad night and getting upset at his reaction. He apologized for making me feel rejected, said that it would have been different if he had slept well, and that he was touched by the gesture. NTA. Look, I'm not a morning person either, so I can be a little zombie-like. However, provided you could actually raise the dead, I would still give you a hug and welcome you in and say, thank you before saying, BRB, I have to have a shower so I can return to the land of the living. After 4 years, you should know your so's sleep schedule. I feel like too many comments focus on the fact that it is 9 a.m., as most of us are up by then, but he works from home. If my so woke me up at 5 a.m. with a surprise that we already discussed would not be celebrated that day, I would look at them.